Hi pet lovers, thanks for joining Gina's grooming channel. This video is the first in our mini-series called Grooming Clippers Demystified. We are going to be doing 3 of these because we're going to be talking about each section of a grooming clipper. That's the grooming clipper itself, then the grooming blades, and then the guide combs. So make sure you subscribe to our channel because we're going to be, after this, releasing 2 more videos to complete the set. Now, we're going to simplify things for you by giving you 7 things that you should be looking for in a professional grooming clipper. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in and look at our first thing that we need to look for in a professional grooming clipper. But before I go in too deep, I want to say that a lot of folks groom differently. A lot of professional groomers might be watching and saying, that's not how I do it, and that's okay. What I'm going to be talking about is the de facto industry standard nomenclature for a particular type of clipper that really is the bread and butter, the meat and potatoes of most professional groomers out there. Okay, so what is this clipper? This clipper is called an A5 clipper. An A5 clipper is just a hinge mechanism and a locking mechanism, but basically it allows you to use manufacturer independent any clipper blade that is A5 compliant, right, compatible, and to be able to go ahead and put onto your clipper. Okay, so when I say manufacturer independent, this is a Guide 30 blade. I can put this on my Oster clipper. I can put this on my Andis clipper. Okay, I can put this on my Laube clipper. Because regardless of manufacturer, all of these manufacturers go ahead and comply with the standard de facto industry nomenclature, which is A5. And in addition to the clipper blades going onto the clipper, we also have A5 compatible guide combs that fit this entire system. Okay, so think of it like kind of working with Legos. It's everything interlocks together, but everything is independent. So if something breaks, you already have gone ahead and purchased your blades from different manufacturers, whichever ones you want to choose, and you can just go ahead and replace, let's say, the clipper, but everything else is purchased, which gives you this magnificent amount of flexibility when choosing what kind of clipper you need to work with to do professional pet grooming. So for all of you going, Eureka! Finally, I figured out what kind of clipper, the A5 clipper, again, the first thing you should be looking for in a professional grooming clipper to groom like a professional. There is a little caveat. So even though it is manufacturer independent and different manufacturers go ahead and make the clippers that are A5 compatible, different manufacturers make the blades, and a few different manufacturers go ahead and do the clipper combs, guide combs as well, it's still not quite as easy as you would hope. So the company that created the A5 nomenclature is Oster, and yes, that's the way you pronounce it. So Oster did this about 30 years ago or so. They created this whole A5 hinge technology that a lot of other manufacturers went ahead and jumped in on that bandwagon. But because they were first, they kind of got first dibs on the name. So if you're doing a search and you go ahead and type in A5 clipper, what you're gonna see is mostly everything gets populated with Oster products. Again, that's just because of the A5 name that they got dibs on. But do not fear, because manufacturers make A5 for sure. So here's a Super AGR, this is an Andis clipper. I went ahead and did some snooping for you guys to see how you would be able to find an A5 clipper of the Andis variety. What I've noticed is that a lot in their descriptions, they say detachable blade. Now, detachable blade doesn't guarantee that it's going to be an A5 detachable system. So definitely you want to take a look at more of the description, and also you want to see the picture. And if you see the housing, again, in episode 2, we're going to go into a lot of detail with the blades that fit the A5 configuration. Also, the other thing you can look for is in the description of the product is sometimes it'll say comes with a number 7F or comes with a number 10. That is the A5 nomenclature. And again, on episode 2, we're gonna go into all of those details. But look for that when you're looking for Andis, or you're looking for a Wall, or you're looking for Laube. Definitely look for how the blade looks. And if you're seeing something with a number 3, number 4, number 5, 7, number 10, blades that usually they do come, one kind of a blade comes with the clipper, then you can rest assured that you are working on the first thing you look for in a professional grooming clipper, which is an A5 clipper. Number 2 is something called SPMs. That is strokes per minute. And every single clipper has a different SPM. I mean, some of them obviously have the same SPMs, but you want to go ahead and choose a clipper with a particular SPM for what you want to do. Now, what about the pros and cons? Why wouldn't you get the most powerful clipper in the world? Let's take a look at some of this. So my Oster clipper runs at about 2,300 SPMs. Okay, the Andis, which is a day-to-day, very, very common, the AGR runs about 3,000, 3,500 SPMs. The Laube starts, it's a variable clipper, and we're going to talk about different power sources, but the Laube that I have can go up to 10,000 SPMs. So this thing can probably shear a sheep. Now, I don't use it every day because I do a lot of special needs dogs, so I like the quietness of a low SPM motor. Also, some of the pros and cons is that low SPMs, they stay cooler longer. So if you're running your blade and you are touching skin with an actual blade on a dog, so let's say doing a shave down with a number 7, possibly even a number 10, this is gonna get really hot really fast because this SPM is moving, the friction is making it much more hotter, so just be careful of that. But a con for the low SPMs are that you can also leave tracks in the coat. So for certain coats I won't use, so for instance a Westie, I won't use a low SPM clipper because I'll actually see track marks in that type of a coat. Okay, the third thing you want to look for is the type of speed options. These come, like this is a single speed, and this, like I told you before, just goes to 2,300 SPMs, pretty mellow, but again, I use this a lot because I do a lot of special needs dogs, a lot of older dogs, so it works for me. But in terms of other things you can see, and I'm gonna zoom in here, is we have variable speeds. Okay, so again, this goes from 2,200 to 10,000 at its ultimate variable speed. Okay, actually it starts with 10 and goes down to 2,200. And then we have other options that come in 2-speed, 5-speed. Now, what does this matter? If you're working with a lot of different types of dogs, you may want to choose something that is variable or has like 2 or 5 speeds. I find it fine to do 1 speed, but you just have to know if you're working with very, very thick coats and working with very fine coats, having a lot of speed options can be very helpful for you. Now, the number 4 thing to look for is the type of motor. Now, most of the clippers that I have are rotary motors. They have brushes on them, so carbon brushes that help the motor basically to rotate and push this little nub that's going to be moving your blade back and forth. Again, episode 2, we're going to be talking about how those blades work. Regardless, if you have a option, there is a new thing came out, maybe I want to say, 7-10 years ago, called a brushless motor. These are supposed to run much quieter, much cooler. Okay, so we are on number 5. I put this in because there are different cord options that you have with clippers. So you have corded clippers and you have cordless clippers. Cordless clippers, usually lithium ion, you have to go ahead and charge them. Now, it depends on what you're doing and what you're using it for. Again, I do a lot of special needs dogs, so cordless clipper is great because you don't have this cord kind of flying and distracting dogs that get a little nervous, but they are a little more expensive. So be aware of that. Now, the 6th thing that we're going to be looking at is the sizes. These clippers come in a lot of different sizes, and I will tell you, this is my big boy, as I talked to you about, the Laube, but definitely know that I wouldn't be using this all day, day out, because I have a small hand. So look at the size of your clipper, know what kind of a hand that you have, and what would fit your hand really nicely. So that gives you more options on what kind of a clipper to select that's perfect for you. So look at your size of your clipper, look at the size of your hand, and choose accordingly. And all right, guys, we are on the last one, number 7. What to look for in your professional grooming clipper. I put down basically brand. I think brand is really important. Now, I have a variety of brands. Now, the big players in the clipper industry are, and there are so many that are wonderful, but the big players are Wall, Andis, Laube, and Oster. Those are the big players in the field. So just wanted to give you an idea that if you're looking for those 4 big players, you really can't go wrong. So with an A5 clipper, with whatever variables that we talked about for those 7 things you need to look for, that should get you the perfect clipper for your hand and for the work that you're trying to do. But just know that I'm gonna, down below in the description, I'm gonna put some links to some of the stuff that I use, so it maybe give you a little bit of direction. And guys, please don't hesitate to ask any questions in the comments below. It helps us focus our material, first off, and also helps answer your questions. So if you see or hear or think of anything that I didn't cover, definitely put that in the comments below. We are listening, and we definitely will be responding, so don't forget to do that if you have a question. Now, last but not least, and I know I just gave you a lot of information, that's why we're breaking these up into different videos to give you the complete picture. I do want to talk about detail clippers that a lot of professional groomers use in conjunction with their bread and butter A5 clipper. Now, the cool thing about some of these detail clippers, and I use the Bravura, you'll see that in a lot of my videos, it's one of my favorite things, is that they, although are not an A5 at all, totally different, got some hair in there, totally different drive structure, totally different way of working, totally different clipper blade. Okay, and this is a 5-in-1. The cool thing is that some manufacturers have made these detail clippers that play in the same sandbox along with the A5 compatible set. Okay, so what they did is they created guide combs, and we're going to talk about that in episode 3, that fit the same sandbox. So yellow is a 0, and we're going to talk about that. And I can use that on my detail clipper. So it's kind of like the little cousin of the A5 clipper. So you can go ahead and do your main stuff with your A5, go back with your detail clipper, use the same kind of blade length and nomenclature that you're used to. So that's about it, guys. I know there's a lot, and we haven't, well, we scratched the surface. We definitely scratched the surface. Make sure to stay tuned for our clipper blades. There's a lot to go through. And then again, episode 3, our guide combs, and making sure that you have a complete picture of how to go ahead and start doing haircuts on your dog. Guys, if you like this video, please go ahead and click that thumbs up. Subscribe for more like it, and definitely subscribe if you're on this whole clipper journey. You're going to want to be notified when our next episodes come out with this mini series, and really appreciate your time. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.